Hello, in this video we're going to start to think about probabilities with statements that we might see in our everyday life. And we're going to think about how we can kind of gauge how likely something is. So we're going to look at some statements and we're going to decide if they're impossible. That means they absolutely can't happen. Possible but very unlikely, or possible and likely. Now before we begin, we need to define what we mean by unlikely. So unlikely, we mean that it has a less than 5% chance of happening. So less than 5% chance. So that means if the event happened 100 times, it would happen 5 or fewer of those times. Okay, so you should think that that's something that you would be surprised about happening. It would be very unlikely. So our first statement says that on the way to work yesterday, I arrived at 3 traffic lights and they were all red. Now, this definitely isn't impossible. If you go through 3 traffic lights, it's definitely possible that they could all be red. So we need to decide, is it possible but very unlikely or possible and likely? Now, since we wouldn't be surprised by this, it's things could all be red, we would say possible and likely. The second one says, on the way to work yesterday, I arrived at 3 traffic lights and they were all green. So again, this is something that wouldn't necessarily surprise us. So we would say possible and likely. The next one says, everyone in this classroom has the same birthday. Now that's something that could happen, but we'd be very surprised if in an entire class everyone had the same birthday. So we would say this is possible, but very unlikely. Number 4 says Mother's Day will fall on a Saturday next year. Now this is one where we need to have a little bit of context, and it actually happens that Mother's Day is always on a Sunday. So the statement that Mother's Day will fall on a Saturday next year is impossible. That will never happen. Number 5 says Thanksgiving will fall on a Thursday next year. Again, this is something you have to know a little bit about Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving is always on a Thursday. So this is actually always going to happen, it's certain, but in our 3 choices here, this would be possible and likely. Okay. Number 6 says, I bought a new shirt last week and found a $10 bill in its pocket. Now this isn't impossible. In fact, I've even had it happen to me once. But it's not very likely. Most of the time when you buy new shirts, they don't have any money in them. So here we would say possible but very unlikely. And our final one, number 7, says Father's Day will be on a Monday next year. Again, you have to know something about holidays, but Father's Day is always on a Sunday. So this statement is impossible.